Sure. Yep. So, Isaac.
Oh, okay, just start.
Yeah. Go.
Okay, yeah. So what is TensorFlow? It's basically an open source platform for machine learning. It's made by Google Brain, more specifically. It's written in Python and also C++. It's used to train and run neural networks. It abstracts the machine learning complexities from the developer, so you don't have to start from scratch. You can just get into it straight away. And it's also best for large and complex projects. That's me.
So Tensorflow.js is a library for machine learning in JavaScript. It'll allow for you to use machine learning directly in the browser or with Node. And you can use either off-the-shelf JavaScript models or convert standard Python TensorFlow models to use in the browser or under Node. One example of a TensorFlow model with JavaScript is Blazeface, which is just a lightweight TensorFlow model which can detect faces in front-facing cameras or images. You can also use TensorFlow to develop machine learning, but you can also take previous models and then retrain them with your own data.
And finally, TensorFlow Lite, which is it's a lightweight library for deploying TensorFlow and machine learning on mobile and embedded devices such as smart speakers. The transition to these devices allows for mobile in the physical sense of mobile applications. Solutions to common problems using TensorFlow that have been tackled in the past include image classification, such as identifying objects such as people, activities, animals, plants, and places, like capture, basically. Object detection, like detecting multiple objects within bounding boxes, and question answering. It's similar to how Alexa will answer your questions, that sort of idea in machine learning. And then finally, how it works. So you pick a model from the TensorFlow library, new model or retrain an existing one, then convert it into a compressed flat buffer with the TensorFlow Lite converter. Flat buffers being essentially an cross-platform serialization for the library for C++, Python, etc. It was actually originally created by Google for game developers and for game development and other performance-critical applications. Then you deploy it, so take the compressed TF Lite file and load it into a mobile or embedded device. And finally optimize it, so quantize or just compress it with lossy compression from 32-bit floats to 8-bit integers, or you can run it on the GPU and then boom, you have your machine learning application. And then that's it.
Nicely done. Before I guess we ask any questions, does anyone in the audience have any questions for the TensorFlow group?
Nope, not right now.
Don't be shy.
No.
Okay, I'll ask a question then. So, so you've looked into TensorFlow and you've seen sort of a lot of what it's commonly used for. Can you think of sort of any common day apps that you might use that might incorporate technology from TensorFlow and sort of have a think about that?
I've got one. So I sort of briefly mentioned on it, but from the what's it called now? The question answering side of TensorFlow Lite. So as I was saying with Google, Alexa, Siri, which is not that good, but anyway. So so using the natural language model to answer questions based on the context of a given passage of text with something called BERT, B-E-R-T. Haven't looked into that yet, but that's sort of like an example.
That's a really good example.
I could say as well with face detection, not specifically or the example I gave, but in all sorts of stuff, like with your mobile phones, when you've got face detection using the cameras, a TensorFlow could be used in something like that. Maybe not the pre-made TensorFlow JS model, but something similar, and maybe a bit more secure, obviously. But
Yeah.
You could use it for the Snapchat filters and stuff as well.
Yeah, all really, really good uses of TensorFlow and its neural network technology. I will add on for anyone who's interested in messing with this. There are, if you go and have a look, there are Python and Node npm modules. I've played around with them before, so has Michael, where you can essentially create a neural network in about 5 lines of code, and they work really well.
Nice. We've also got a question from the chat as well. Have any of you guys worked with TensorFlow before, and on what, in brackets if you're allowed to say?
I haven't.
Yeah.
Or brand new? There you go.
There
I'll
we
do
go.
one question that isn't necessarily tech-based then. Do you guys think you work well as a team? Is there anything you'd change?
So we all talked quite well. We communicated and got on with it.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, get to sort of divide and conquer, as well as making sure that we can support
Yeah.
each other in the bits that they need help in.
There you go. Good stuff, good stuff.
All right, fantastic. In that case, do we have a next volunteer group?
Sure.
If not, we'll. Oh, yeah, cool. All right, you guys then.
Go on. Get it over and done with. Right, right, who's going to share the screen from our group?
I can show if you want.
Yep, that would be great. Thank you.
Hopefully you can all see it.
Yep, we can.
Yep, that's
Cool. So we used a tool called Mirrorboard instead of the usual PowerPoint presentation, because that's used by customer care and Scrum Masters, and we are engineers who don't use this kind of Wix shit. But yeah, so we had Golang. I have never, well, I've heard of it, but I've never actually researched it before. We saw that is an open source programming language by Google, among other things, and it was designed with concurrency in mind as well. Well, has many things actually, but yeah, there's tons and tons of stuff. But basically, it's not a scripting language like Python, but it looks very similar to Python, as you could perhaps see over here. And yeah. You guys want to continue? Or?
I'll take the next bit if you don't want me to. If you want me to.
Go on. Yep.
Okay. So looking at where it's used, it was originally designed for use. So to replace things like Java and C on Google servers, but then transitioned to being open source and publicly available in 2012, I think it was. It is pretty good for monitoring infrastructure, and it is what is the language behind Kubernetes and Docker. Some of these are probably going to murder me for the pronunciation of Kubernetes there. It is primarily a web development thing, but it can also be used for creating microservices and data science, although Python is much stronger in that regard. It is also it is kind of like designed for working on multi-threaded systems, so getting the most out of multiple cores, which again is great for creating back-end services for web development.
Right, now we move on to the advantages. One being simple syntax, easy to learn. So that's very good, as shown here and here. Thank you, George. It's good for performance, since it's designed for large-scale environments, where the use case could be Docker or for Kubernetes, and has the most APIs, so common APIs, so very useful. And relatively easy to install, which means it's always easy to get started, get the ground running, and then do your thing. And of course, has a cool mascot, so we can't go wrong there.
So heading to the limitations. So for Golang, I think it's a new language, so it might lack of community support compared to like Python, which is like decades old. And it's not much in the way of libraries compared to Python, because as you know, it's a new language, and the safety for runtime is not very good. Yeah, I think that's the limitation that Golang has.
That's it, I think.
Yeah, that's about it, basically. Yeah, sorry we didn't have any cool presentations, but yeah, if you have any questions.
Can I ask you a question? So, why did you choose to use instead of a more traditional presentation layout, use that way of showing? What was the reason behind it?
Yeah, so what I thought was, because we didn't have that much time, we basically had 15 minutes. I think it's more clear and structured if we use a tool like Mirrorboard, because you can like put everything like on the board, put notes, and then basically like having a big whiteboard of stuff. And I kind of like that idea more than just throwing text in a slide and reading through it. Because even, for example, I'm not a very good presenter, but even if I present, I get the feeling that you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying if you see it with lines and everything.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good description of why. I'll let you finish your questions, Zach. I will get back to you on that question in a bit. Anyone else have any other questions for them?
Grill away, please, if you can. That is.
I'll ask one. I don't know if you'll know the answer, because I appreciate you guys only have like 20 minutes. Do you actually know why Go was made and not just the languages that existed at the time?
Was it to make Google infrastructure and backend more efficient?
Yeah, largely. I think concurrency was a good factor. I've just dumped a video in the chat for anyone that is interested after this talk. It's also a channel that you'll see me big up a lot. But basically, they just needed a language to serve a purpose, and realized they didn't actually have one. Because if you think about high performant concurrency, you might think C, but no one's writing C in any year past 2000. So they were like, hell, we'll make Go. They actually pulled in some of the original creators of C as well, to learn from their mistakes and make a better language. So, by all means, was a pretty cool language to do.
Right, thank you. Thank you we learn everything here. Learn something new every day.
There you go.
If no one else is going to ask you questions, I will respond to Zach quickly. So, in Go. So, do you know how threads work? Like multi-threading?
Vaguely.
So, you can think of Go routines as sort of in compiler threads for Go. So, let's say you have a some code that you want to run concurrently, and you might have multiple functions or methods run at the same time. That's when you would implement Go routines, because essentially they're really cheap compared to threads. So for a thread, obviously you need like a chunk of the CPU to run. Threads are really quite small, and you can stack a lot of them on the top. They're pretty simple, and they
So is it like exactly like a thread, or is it just like a simplified sort of version of it?
It's essentially like imagine a simplified, smaller thread for running Go methods. Well, Go like methods or functions. Essentially, that's the rough gist of it.
Is
Right.
is that sort of like again, VB.NET, not the best of languages for an example here, but is it sort of like system.threading in VB.NET where you can do multiple things at the same time?
So that would be
Currently.
that'd be multi-threading. I imagine. I haven't used VB.NET, but I assume that's standard multi-threading. Whereas Go routines sort of sit above that. They're a lot smaller than actual normal threads.
Okay.
And so they're essentially, it's all to do with the concurrency that Go was made to deal with.
Okay.
You can go and read up about it. It's really quite interesting.
Sure. Okay, I'll have a look. Cheers.
Real quick, is it like actual like parallel execution, or is it just one on the main thread, almost running them very quickly, one step after another, and each of the different routines?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know how they work like directly under the hood. They basically act like threads, but they do run properly concurrently. So I imagine that they are running separately and not just very quickly after another. But yeah, like when I was working on placement, our tool, for example, was running probably 6,000 or 7,000 Go routines at the same time. So there you go. So yeah, they are properly concurrent. There we go. All right. Cool. That's enough on Go routines, I guess.
Awesome. Where is our next volunteer? If not, I can do some volunteering.
Michael can volunteer you. Yep.
I'll do some volunteering.
I think.
Shall we have Team Flutter?
Yeah, I'm thinking Flutter. Flutter's a good shout.
Hey, take it away.
Oh,
Okay.
No, it's something.
Oh.
So Flutter is a framework for building quite nice looking and fast applications on devices ranging from like your mobile phone all the way up to like full scale desktop PCs. It comes in two parts. It's got the software development kit, which is the actual tools you're going to be using to develop with it, and it's also got a UI like framework, so it's quite easy to make personalized and reusable like widgets. Don't call it. It also uses a programming language called Dart, which is somewhat similar to JavaScript, but it is typed, so it's, at least for me, a little bit nicer to work with.
So some of the benefits of using the Flutter framework is that it's quite a lightweight framework, which means you get smaller compiled programs, and also they can run quicker on native when compiled natively on mobile devices, for example, and for the web as well, and on more powerful devices, it would compile directly to JavaScript. So it's also cross-platform and will work across different devices. One of the things about it being so lightweight is that I think on Google I/O they had a contest leading up to it, and in the contest they were trying to develop apps that compiled to be less than 5 kilobytes. So that's how lightweight it is.
Dart. This basically rehashes the point before it. Dart's basically a language which is released by Google in 2014. Like's been said before, the syntax is quite similar to JavaScript, or a bit more similar to Kotlin if anyone's ever done Android development recently. And it's used like it's been previously said, the benefit of using Dart in this context is that it compiles directly to low-level machine code. And one of the benefits of that is that because the code size is smaller and the execution is faster, it's better than comparable technologies like React Native, which need to actually contain a JavaScript interpreter within applications to be able to run them. It doesn't directly execute code, it executes the JavaScript via the interpreter. And the main benefit of using Flutter over React Native in this context is that it's better on lower powered devices. Arguably, one benefit of this is that would be better in markets where they have lower powered devices, such as India, large parts of Africa, and other regions of the world.
So, as I think was mentioned a second ago, it's got like a huge range of uses. For example, BMW, they built their app using it, and it's like one code base. You don't have to rewrite the code if you're writing an app for Apple devices. You don't have to rewrite it for Android. It's you write it once and then it can be exported to different platforms. Nubank, which is a bank in I think Latin America, and it's similar to like Revolut or Monzo, where it's all online. They use Flutter to build their apps or their app. And here on the bottom right are just some other companies that use it. Google they use it quite a lot. I think they're one of the main people behind it, so that kind of speaks for itself.
Yep, and this part's kind of like a conclusion bit, so it has everything that we've talked about. So just to highlight the point, it is a really client-optimized language, which means it's easy to learn and quick and easy to build fast apps. On the right, you can see a small demo, and this is actually on the flutter.dev homepage. It's 52 lines of code, and that's including all of the UI and like the close brackets, which isn't really like that much code there. And you can see it's got like this kind of pretty looking UI, and it looks like an actual app which was built obviously really quickly, and it runs really well even in the browser. So this is an example of it running when compiled to JavaScript on web, but if you did compile it, you'd be able to make a mobile app that runs fast on Android or iOS as well, and that's pretty much Flutter as a whole.
Real quick, I want to add, if you've ever like tried to work with UI before, you might have come across Material Design. They have I don't know if I should call it like an API, but they have a set of trying to think of the word, but it's not coming to my head. Like a set of tools, clean and responsive, like UI elements,
components
designed for Flutter, and yeah, I like it. You might like it. Who knows? But yeah.
Thank you so much, Team Flutter. That was a really good presentation. I've never actually really touched Flutter myself before. Really actually want to go and try it at some point now because it looks really good. Have any of you used it before?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah.
I've barely touched before.
Okay. So with that, I guess if you're gonna ever develop an app, I assume, would you want to maybe try it?
Yeah, after looking into it, especially the part after trying to create like a financial app using an open source AI, even sometimes on React Native, if you load, let's say, if you do anything non-trivial with the UI, because you're doing it through the JavaScript bridge, there's a delay between executing things. Even though it batches instructions, sometimes it can still be unresponsive, especially like when I was trying this on like an iPhone 5S or an iPhone 6, it was quite laggy. But from what I can tell from Flutter, because it's compiling it straight to machine code, and they have one of the core principles behind why they created Flutter is because they wanted a UI that could render at 120 FPS. And when I was looking at videos of how it renders on lower powered devices, it's not 120 FPS, but clearly it's still smooth on lower powered devices. Whereas on React Native, that's definitely not true.
Yeah, because you mentioned about sort of this being kind of sort of a godsend for app developers who want the apps to be used in potentially more impoverished parts of the world. So I think sort of linking back to the solution challenge we mentioned almost an hour ago, I mean, maybe this would be something you could potentially think about for that.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, cool.
Can I ask one question about that, or are you just moving on to the next group in case you just don't have time?
No, go for it.
Okay, so for that solution challenge, do we identify a problem and then go for that, or is it like some other, let's say, things that come to the uni where there's a list of things and you choose one of the problems to tackle?
So you can come up with your own idea, and that's fine. But what we have noticed is that during the finals, almost every sort of team that's done very well has done it with a real client.
Okay,
and
fair
so
enough.
we will, a little bit spoiler time, we're going to see if we can get local charities and local businesses to potentially pitch problems to you lot for the solution challenge, to come up with real problems that you can solve in the Portsmouth area or further afield.
Yeah, and equally you can bring your own problems with a client, which is also good practice for those of you not in final year and those of you just gone into final year or are experiencing the same crisis that we all are right now, which is trying to find a final year project, and having a client for that is exponentially easier. He says as someone who doesn't have one.
As someone who does have a client, I also agree.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have anyone else wanting to ask any questions to the Flutter team, or we can move on as well?
Sounds good. Shall we have React Native next? I think that makes sense.
I think that'd be a good a good comparison. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were going to suggest it anyway.
All right, off you go.
Hold on, bear with me. I haven't shared the screen on this before. Yeah, can someone else share it? It's not letting me do it.
Yeah, I can share it. Give me 1 second.
I haven't shared anything on this laptop before. It's asking me to authorize it.
You can't go through a demo night without the demo curse turning up, can you?
So our group did React Native, which is obviously the alternative to Flutter. React Native has been around a lot longer than Flutter. It's created back in 2015, whereas obviously Flutter was created in 2018. It's based off React, which is sort of like Facebook's JavaScript library for building user interfaces, except this targets the mobile application side of it. It allows you to code in one language and translate that into Android and iOS, so you can develop stuff simultaneously, very similar to Flutter. It uses a mixture of JavaScript and JSX. And if you go to the next page, there's a list of some of the current companies that use React Native. So you've obviously got Facebook, Shopify, Discord, which you're using now, Skype, Instagram, loads of big sort of social media. And I don't know if you guys have heard like dropper shipping before, like that sort of side of things. I don't know if anyone else wants to talk about any of the other stuff on there.
Yeah, so showing a bit comparison with Flutter. As I said, it was created by Facebook, whilst Flutter was created by Google, and we can see that Flutter has quite a few more stars on GitHub. That's I'm suspecting it's probably due to the last couple of mobile years where they've been pushing Flutter quite a lot. Even if Flutter is new, it still has way more stars, but that doesn't mean that React Native is bad per se. So definitely giving a go sometime soon.
I think as well, obviously, the past couple of years, the application development side has been pushed just in general with everything going more mobile. I guess with it being started in 2018, it's sort of been in a more relevant era.
Yeah. And here is a quick showcase of a simple native application. This is directly from their website, and there's a link also for the documentation. It's very, very easy, just an npx install, and can just run. Easy to develop, and yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So it's similar to Flutter as well. React Native has a whole documents page listed on how to make it. So if you have like your general problems with coding and you go to Stack Overflow and you Google stuff, they have like a massive, sort of store of documents where it's been around for so long, that you can use to help you with interactive guidance like there is there, and also just pure documentation based on like variables you can use, different commands, stuff like that. So they're really, really supportive in helping people to use React Native. I personally have never used it. I've never been in app development, but from looking at the documentation, I'm sure that I could be able to pick it up quite quickly, which I'm sure other people would as well if they have any sort of coding experience previously.
Yeah, probably also to mention one of the bigger differences on Flutter is that we have literally thousands of packages, and also is a bit more stable due to the length of years that was created like 3 years before. So it was tested quite a bit as well. But yeah, probably having those many packages more is gonna help, at least in the short term. Long term, Flutter may catch up as well. Yeah.
I think because obviously Flutter went before us, there wasn't as much to talk about. 'Cause it's all a lot of it's the same in terms of their goals and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Awesome stuff. Very nicely done. Has anyone got any questions for this group? Go on, be brave. Anyone from the Flutter team got a question?
It's not really a question, but I've worked a bit with React in the past, trying to build like an idle game, and something I've noticed when using it is the way that like properties are handled. You've got like the top level components and you're passing it down. So like once you get to the where you actually want to be handling, say, you got like a progress bar or something like that, you could have like something like 20 properties just on the level above that. If I was to make it a question, do you know like if there's any ways to?
I think you may have cut out at the end.
Can I add something to that? To his point that he made.
Go ahead.
Okay. In React, there's something called Redux, which is basically it solves because I had this problem when I was trying to make my banking app, and like you say, once the user logs in and you're trying to pass things like tokens around, how do you do that? Because like you say, you might have the page, then a part of the page, then the part where you're actually accessing calls, and then what Redux does, it gives you an action which can be called from any page. However, for trying to make a game like you say, it's a nightmare to even manage that. So I'd be more interested in how Flutter solves that problem. I think you're right in saying React definitely does have that issue as well, but it seems to be a cross-platform issue.
Yeah, and from experience, typically, at least on the website, you'll have frameworks like Next.js that put a framework on top of React, which is a framework, in order to help solve a lot of those problems. But even then, you're going to turn to a Redux. Recoil's a personal favorite as well. If anyone's used React before, recoils are fairly similar syntax to things like use effects and use state. Whereas Redux, you've got to learn a few new concepts, but benefits and negatives to each. Awesome stuff. So thanks for that, guys. Last but not least, because we've had a sneak preview of this one, and I'm particularly excited. Did the Firebase team want to kick us off?
Oh no.
Yeah, we focused mostly on the presentation, but it's quite special.
I love it already.
Yeah, it's a very special presentation. So can I please present to everyone Firebase Firestore, I'm pretty sure we used those words interchangeably within the presentation, but it is called Firestore. So what is? Yeah, here we go. So what is Firebase Firestore? We found this really big chunk of text on Google. I think we can probably explain it better than those words do. So we'll give it a go. Am I explaining this bit too? I'll explain this bit too. So here's some important things. You can query shit, but not with SQL. No one uses SQL. You can filter things. You can chain filters. You can combine filters. Everyone likes combining things. It has integrated REST API, and it's scalable as fuck, certified by Google. Listens for real-time updates for things that update in real time, and it protects shit using authorization, or it doesn't. It depends on whether you want to or not. Here's what our professional Bill Gates said. Firebase is an all-in-one tech stack. It unifies a lot of common tools and infrastructure you would need for an application and makes it easy to combine them and add or remove features as you need. Some of these tools include a NoSQL database, authentication, user analytics, website hosting, and advertisements. Here we have a funky text-based section for our comparison between fan favorite Cassandra and its cousin AstraDB, and the new one on the block, Firestore. So isn't Firestore just Cassandra? No. Cassandra is very closely similar to Firestore, and it has advantages such as wider programming language support, and of course being open source. I don't know how to go back. Hold on. There we go. But it has the drawbacks of no server-side scripting, no XML support, and minimal external APIs, and a bunch of other issues that having a small open source team means that you can't get the sort of support that Google can give you. So why should we use Firestore over other databases? Firestore has a lot more features like server-side scripts, multi-source replication, immediate consistency in transaction concepts, and multi-threading support. But it has drawbacks such as minimal SQL mimicking, limited programming language support, a commercial license that no one wants to pay for, and it's harder to use than other third-party technologies. However, Firebase is used by a number of our favorite applications, such as One Direction fanfiction writer, Owl Bully, Hotel Place, Almost Uber, and the New York Times. Here's some more information on a video that we didn't make, but we took a lot of our information from. We promise it's not a rickroll, and that's it.
That was fantastic. I'm absolutely questionless. So has anyone got any questions for the team? Or have they stunned you into silence?
Please don't ask questions, we don't know that much.
I haven't got a question per se, but there's a really cool feature for Firebase that you can detect crashes from your app, and it sends them into a thing called Crashlytics, and you can basically check and have the whole log of the device that your app crashed, and it's really useful if you want to debug stuff.
I kind of just put that in the same sort of thing as analytics, but I probably should have separated it a bit because it is a separate thing in it, I think.
Yeah, I hope you guys will get particularly excited for the session where after some GitHub stuff, we're going to be exploring a good chunk of Firebase. I know you guys used it a little bit interchangeably. Firebase is the entire platform, which is a large suite of fairly easy to use products. I'm not even watching on stream, but I assume you're backing me up on this. There you go. Firebase, big platform. One of those features is Firestore. Another thing is like Firebase authentication. So you can easily add things like SMS authentication, a Microsoft login, a Google login, a GitHub login, all those good stuffs. What else we got in there? They said crash testing, A/B testing. I was doing the two at once. There's a load of good features in Firebase, and that will be a good chunk of what we're doing next week. Tom, do you want me to keep rambling for this slide, or do you want to do it?
I can do it, sure. So, as mentioned before, as Michael said, we're doing Firebase. We've mentioned this a couple of times before. We need you to RSVP for the event next week that's in person. So please make sure you actually join the club on the GDSC page. It's free. All you need to do is set up your Google developer account, and then there'll be a nice little blue button that says like join or join us or something. If you click on that, you'll then get emails from us, and you'll also be able to RSVP for our events, so we know you're coming and we can send you content about the events. Talking about events, the UK IPC. So we do apologise that this is with a little bit of short notice. We were given it with short notice as well. On October the 30th, so in 10 days, there is going to be the yearly UK and Ireland programming challenge for 2021. Now, we're sort of advertising this because we're putting together teams for the university to compete against other universities like Southampton, and so we're looking for people who are relatively strong programmers who have knowledge of data structures, algorithm, problem solving, to get into teams of 3 that can then go on October the 30th and compete in this challenge. Me and Michael have done it before. I'm not going to put any wool over your eyes. It is a difficult competition. We came, I think we were 90th in the country or something. The best team from Portsmouth ever was in 46th. Every year Cambridge wins it. But if you want to go and show Cambridge and Southampton that we're better than them, reach out to us. You can do it in Java, Python, C++, or C. Most of the challenges are sort of, they'll give you a situation, and then you'll essentially have to do something like dynamic programming or build a data structure algorithm to solve a problem. It's quite similar to stuff you'll see on what's that website that all of the
Tom, there's a website if you guys want to know how it's going to be like what type of questions you're gonna encounter and how the solution will be. Go to a website called codeforces.com, code forces.com. You'll be able to see thousands of questions, like problem solving and competitive programming questions that you can actually practice with, and you'll be more ready to the type of questions you will probably have in the competition.
Yep. It will be an in-person event. It will be hosted in the library on October the 30th. There's 2 university, staff members who are supervising it. So there's, if you know them, there's Mani and Tamil Bogdadli. So they'll be looking after it. It's on the 30th of October. If you're interested in this in any way, we're gonna send out a message in the Discord shortly as well. See if anyone who wasn't able to make it to this session is interested. But yeah, if you're interested, do reach out to us.
Yeah, not questions, but just to add on some top tips. On the day, you get 13 or 12. It varies every year. Problems. You don't have access to the internet the whole time, and all 3 of you are crowded around one computer. Make no mistake, this is a fairly difficult competition. So by all means, go in blind. I did in first year, and I roughed it. I think I got 3 out of 13 solutions.
No, I actually had a look at us earlier today when I was doing this. We got 4 out of 13.
I got 4. Okay.
Yeah, we got 4.
But yeah, it's tough. Pro tips: bring a pen, bring lots of paper. Colors help as well. Sometimes even a calculator.
I haven't put it on here, but you probably have to be relatively competent at maths as well for this as well.
Sometimes.
Yep, that's a note from me.
I do apologise.
It's a lot of problem solving, but it's a really good experience, and a fairly humbling one at that. Because sometimes you go in full confidence, thinking you're the best programmer alive. You reach this competition, and it is extremely humbling, but you learn a lot.
Yeah, and then you only get 4 out of 13 right when one of the teams from Cambridge gets all 13 right.
I'm not sure.
That's Cambridge. Just let them be. Let them be.
Yeah,
I mean, to answer a question in the chat, I'm not sure what you're allowed to bring in.
If I remember, it was basically just a pen, paper, some like pen, paper. You get given the questions on the day. I think they do get released later. And oh no, I do remember. You can take in as many books as you like. If I remember, because we had a stack of maths books and calculus books when we went in. And we still struggled. So yeah, you can take books in. At least you could 2 and a bit years ago. So yeah, if anyone's interested, reach out to us. We're looking to put together at least a team of 3. So yeah, Zach, if you're interested, if you send me a DM on a Discord, just saying I'm interested, if anyone is, and then we'll try and put some teams together.
Yeah, we've got to pass your details over to the uni.
Is
Just to asterisk, this isn't a Google event. It's not an us event. It's a uni event that we're tagging along to.
Yep. So is this a bit? As in, is the challenge available for alumni? No, I think it's just for current. Oh, GDSC. Yeah. They'd have to manually tell us about getting into this Discord, because I don't think they'll have an at my port or at port email. But yeah, alumni are more than welcome to come along. Cool. With that, leave on to Michael. You wanted to mention some things as well.
Yeah, so next week, as mentioned a couple of times, the session is going to be on Git and GitHub. A lot of the stuff we do throughout the year, we'd love to store on GitHub. So a little bit of homework from me to you. Make yourself a GitHub account if you don't have one already. Next week, if you don't have one there, then we can make you one while you are there. And I will gather your usernames at the time. We're going to teach you how to use GitHub, and more importantly, how to use Git. There is a difference. We're going to go through that as well. But it'd be really more optimal if you guys can make a GitHub account ahead of time. And we'll email out a little reminder as well. If you've got any issues with that, feel free to shoot me a DM. But yeah.
And with that, I think we've covered everything we want to cover. Let me just. I don't think there's no more slides. So I just wanted to thank everyone so much for coming to this first session of GDSC University of Portsmouth. I hope you all had a good time, and we're looking forward to seeing you next week, hopefully in person. Definitely in person next week. We have we'll send out more information about we'll send out more information about the room and how to get there. And also about the session throughout the week. Again, if anyone is interested in the UK IPC, please message me, and we will get your information to Manny and Tamir. I guess thank you very much. If there's any questions anyone has or anyone they want to ask, feel free to shout out now.
And also probably stick around for a little bit after this if you guys want to show in chat. And after the in-person sessions, likely we will want. So you are more than welcome to join us for that.
I think you cut out, but I think Michael was saying likely we'll stay around by the room and then maybe go down to like Wetherspoons or something.
I was saying pub.
Yeah, you said pub. You did cut out.
Pub sounds good.
I'll see if I can be bothered to come out.
Yeah, that's entirely optional. That's an after thing, but
yeah, we'll see. We shall
little
see.
midweek pub trip never hurt anyone.
I was going to go to a kickboxing social, but I can't be bothered to go out clubbing tonight. But maybe a pub.
Nothing like honestly, just for like a chill hour or so after the session.
Maybe a pub of 1, 2, or 3. I don't know.
Oh, John, that is ooh.
That was my Saturday night.
That's an interesting ping right there. Luckily in person you won't have that level of ping. At least I really hope not.
If you do,
ping delay in person, yeah.
Yep, don't worry, Zach. My GitHub is also looking very dry. Or it's just me shitposting on GitHub, so those two things. It's a code dump for me. Code that I want to delete but need at one point. I just put on GitHub because we need it one day.
Oh, there is one thing. Feedback forms will be sent out automatically in like 9 minutes. If you could fill in the feedback form and tell us if we were bad, tell us if we were good, but constructively tell us why we were good or bad. This is the founding year for us. So if you tell us why we're bad, we can change it.
Yep.
Equally, if something was particularly good, let us know.
At the end of the day, this is your club. Like we may be the core team, but there will be more core team, and you'll meet them next session, hopefully. At the end of the day, it's your club. You tell us what you're interested in hearing about. We have a rough agenda of what we want to cover for the year. But if there's anything that you're really interested in bringing up, like for example AI, let us know. Yes, it was recorded.
And Tom, is also worth mentioning if you would also like to contribute, right? Let's say you're good in a specific technology, or if you know how to do something really well and it actually fits within our program and within what we're intending to give, then please feel free to reach out, because you might be joining the team or you might be just contributing as a member as well. So we want to learn from each other, because each one of us have different skill sets, and if we actually manage to have these weekly sessions over the next year, imagine the impact on your personal skill sets that it will be. So yeah, it was just worth mentioning that, and thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
And Mo, someone's asked if we can make the entire club about UI UX. So if you just want to run it from here on out, then I'm just gonna.
I mean, definitely we're going to have a lot of UX sessions. User experience design is something you can apply whether you're a computer scientist, a software engineer, a web developer, an app developer. It's something you can apply in even if you're offering a service or if you're building a product. So there will be a huge focus on it. And if there's a specific thing that you guys have found interesting and you would like to know more about it, we can also arrange perhaps like external sessions. So yeah.
One thing I would say is people that want to learn Flutter, we could arrange something like that, because Flutter will be increasingly important in my eyes, but we shall see.
Yeah, and Flutter's going to be covered as part of the app session in week 6.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's perfect.
If I can count correctly in my head. So yeah, on the tech side, we've got the GitHub and Firebase rolled into one next week. It'll be web 2 weeks after that. 2 weeks after that, we'll have the app session.
Okay,
and then it'll be Christmas.
Lovely. That'd be just my project.
The essential idea was for you to be able to make a basic app prototype that's hosted by the time we go into the second teaching block. So for the solution challenge, you can put something together, at which point then we're going to go into sort of more, I don't want to say interesting, but more sort of like more complex things like artificial intelligence, IoT, etc. That's the plan.
Okay, lovely. Looking forward to it, guys.
Yeah, and by all means, if you go onto our GitHub, you'll see me learning React Native to give you guys a boilerplate code to work from. That's been fun. So that's github.com/GDSC ports.
Yep, we will set up a channel in the Discord for you to shove your GitHub usernames in, so we can then add you to our organization.
There you go. But yeah, Flutter will be good. I've not touched Flutter yet. Want to.
It can be either, Isaac.
Yeah, whichever you use the most. Personally, in terms of like having a school GitHub, it's entirely up to you. I choose not to. A lot of people in industry will give you the option to like create a work one or just use your personal. It's quite nice to have that stuff just stored on your personal one. So, for example, at the end of the year, I make all of my coursework open source. Just so it's sort of like stored there as a bank of, hey, I've learned how to do this. So I can either laugh at myself in 2 years, or an employee can come along and be like, oh yeah, he actually sort of knows what he's doing. So yeah. But don't keep your coursework open source while you're doing it, because someone might steal your work and claim credit.
Yes. Pro tip, by the way, guys. Pro tip. Please do not search for university coursework on GitHub. It will lead
They
you.
know.
It will lead you nowhere. I have
Yeah.
tried and I failed. Don't do it.
And also they know.
Yes, I know. I got called out. Mark Paul called out and said, "Why are you using someone else's code?" And I was like, "I wasn't." He was like, "We have seen this code 3 times in a session. Please don't do it." So I had my tail between my legs and left the call immediately.
Nice.
There we go. Learning from mistakes, which is a big part of being a software engineer.
Yes. Yes, do not do it. Also, it was funny on Stack Overflow. They said, "Why is it every year at this point in time we have an influx of students with the same problem coming in from the same university course? What is going on?" As well as with the Discord. So, yep. Please learn. I mean, it's Haskell, so you can kind of tell that it's not very user friendly.
There's the Haskell fan club.
Oh,
and
no.
then cue the not Haskell fan club.
The Haskell fan club is small and very tight knit. I should say that. And they all love to talk about lambdas all day
Yeah.
and create
They
complex.
know what they like.
Sorry.
The Haskell fan club knows what they like.
Oh yeah, they love it. They tried to ban me for telling them I'm going to be using another type of functional language that's easier. They're like, instant ban please for 2 days. I was like, okay.
That's fine. Sorry, Suze. That's fine. Zach, have a good evening. We are pretty much we're over, so we're finished there. So we're just here to sort of chat now. So if anyone, and so yeah, have a fantastic evening, guys. If you're gonna leave, if not,
Yeah, we're not holding you hostage by all means.
If you're busy,
if you've got somewhere better to be.
I mean that I'm not sure that place does exist, but like, oh, clearly it does. But anyway.